Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist Podcast. Today, we are joined by Neil Thubron, executive coach, global sales leader, endurance champion, and best-selling author of Yukon. From leading 450-person sales team to winning the 300-mile Yukon Arctic Ultra. Neil teaches professionals how to achieve big goals using mindset, discipline, and value-driven strategy. With that, I will bring in our guest. Hello, Neil. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bola. Thank you for having me on. It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you, Neil. I was reading your profile. You are the founder of Extreme Energy.
Hmm.
Were introduced to extreme fitness during your time at the British Army Reserve. You love endurance activities, and you are a firm believer in constantly pushing personal boundaries, both in sports and in business. Extreme.
Correct. Yeah.
Why is that important to you, Neil?
Because honestly, we only get one of these things called life, and I want to make sure that I live it to the full and experience every possible thing I can experience, whether that's business, personal, lifestyle. And now with my coaching and mentoring, my passion is to help other people as well experience life as full as they possibly can.
In order to do that, we need to push the boundaries. That's
Correct. Yeah.
very good. I noticed you are joining us from the UK. Where about in the UK are you located, Neil?
Yeah, so I'm about 45 miles northwest of London in the countryside. So reasonably close to London and to Heathrow, but yeah, just northwest of London.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this. Are you a soccer fan or football fan, I should say?
So I am a football fan. I'm an Arsenal fan.
Arsenal fan. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So right here you are talking to a Manchester City fan. So
Manchester City, okay. Yeah, so it's going to be close. It's going to be tight towards the end of the season.
yes, yes, we look forward to that.
Mm.
So, Neil, you have this seven-piece
Yeah.
formula. I want to let's break it down. What does that mean? What is the 7P formula?
Yeah, so when I was doing the Yukon Arctic Ultra that you mentioned, I went through an incredibly hard first night. The first night was brutal on the whole of the race. There were 45 people that started, and only six people carried on after that first night because it got down to minus 55 degrees centigrade. It was just really tough. Anyway, I got through that night, and I was going into the second afternoon. It was beautifully sunny. I can remember exactly where I was. And I just thought, what is it enables me to keep getting through these big challenges, physically, in my career, in my business? And I thought, I know over the next 6 days, I'm going to try and come up with a structure that could help other people achieve their big goals. And that was where I came up with the structure of the 7P formula.
Okay, so can you touch on those? Maybe two, three of the P.
Yeah, I can whiz through it, right? So the first P is purpose. What's your why? And the key thing about why is you've got your internal reason why and your external reason why. The internal reason why is why you're doing it for you. That's great. That will get you to the start line. But what will get you to the finish line is the external reason why. Who else is going to benefit from you achieving this business goal, career goal, personal goal? So that's the first thing is purpose, being really clear on purpose. Second one is about preparation and specifically preparing for what you're going to do. Not if you're running a marathon in the desert, then don't practice that on the roads. You need to practice specifically with the equipment you need. So preparation, if it's business, make sure you're preparing in the business you're going to be in or the career you're going to be in. The third P is planning, because if you want to get to any destination, then you need a map of how you're going to get there, which is your plan. So build a plan and break that down into small chunks that you can achieve, the small chunks of the plan. The fourth P is to pledge. Step over the start line, and commit to yourself that there is only one way, and that is forward. There's no going back. There's no safety net. It's going forward with plan A. So then the fifth P is perception, because no plan survives contact with the enemy. So as soon as you step over any start line or you start any business, it's never going to be exactly as you planned. So you have to have that perception to adapt and change the plan accordingly. The sixth P is pain, because there is always pain on any journey to any big goal. So plan for it in advance. How are you going to deal with it when it comes up? And the final P is perseverance. So keep going, because you only fail when you stop.
Wow, that's so good. I love those from purpose to perseverance. I want to take this discussion towards how we can help working professionals. You are a career coach. Can you tell us what kind of people you target in your coaching?
Okay, so most of my coaching and mentoring is with business leaders and executives. So either divisional board level, or it might be a small company. It'll be the board, the founder, the owner. Occasionally, I'll have a sales director or VP of sales that will reach out to me and say, I need some coaching on the next step in my career. And they typically come to me for one of three reasons, really. So they're in a new job and they need some help to develop into the best version of themselves in that role, or they want to move to the next level and they need some coaching, support, mentoring to help them get them ready for that opportunity. And the third reason is with business owners, it's helping them grow from being in the business to running the business. So those are the three things that people typically approach me for.
And what's your coaching style? How do you work with your clients, I should say?
That's a great question, Bola. So my style. So I say to my clients that I mentor with a coaching style. So I'm not a life coach. I'm a coach that helps someone with their business or career, and therefore I'm pulling on my experience, but doing it in a coaching style. So I approach people I mentor them with a coaching style. So that means I'm helping them uncover what they need to do, but I'm drawing on my experience from my career.
So the other thing, you talked about big goals. How can I identify those big goals in my life? Is it about career? I know you just said you are not a life coach, but how can I know my big goals?
So how can you know your big goals? Well, I guess if there's something that you've always wanted to do and it scares you. So a big goal will scare you. So if it's scary, then
Mhm.
you know that's a big goal. If it feels unachievable, then you know that's a big goal. If it feels unrealistic, then you know that's a big goal. So one of the stories I tell is, the last job I had in corporate life, I was running a sales team for Europe for one of the large IT companies. And I had about 450 people working for me, several billion target. It was a big job, 38 countries. But if I look back down my career timeline to when I was a typewriter engineer, when I first joined into the technology space, if I looked at someone who was in that role, I would never ever have thought I can get to that goal, to that place up there. So when we look at where we want to be, we think, yeah, I'm not that. That's a long way. That's too far for me. I could never be the CEO of the company, or I could never be the chief finance officer. And that's a big goal, right? So if it looks unachievable, if it looks unrealistic, then but it still excites you. and you want to get there because you're going to be, it's going to give you something, fulfillment, or you're going to help other people. That's a big goal.
I like the way you defined it. If it excites you, but it looks scary, it looks unachievable, then you step in to coach people to get there. So and I also like what you mentioned from the start of your career. Maybe you started as an engineer, then you became like executive vice president, and you had hundreds of people working with you in your organization
Mm.
across 38 countries. What got you there? Is what mindset? Is it skills? Is it talent? What got you there, Neil?
That's a good question. So hard work, actually. If I was going to put it down to one thing, it would be hard work and passion. So the passion that goes with hard work, um, and a hunger to want to grow. And yeah, I think it's probably those things. If I've never been someone who's lazy. I've always been someone who gets up early in the morning and is driven from the moment I get up. Even when I was a kid, I was the same. So I think that hunger, that passion, that hard work is, and also because you can have hunger, passion, and hard work, but if you're not clear on where you want to go, so if you haven't got a vision of where you want to go, then you can put a lot of effort going in the wrong direction. So I think having some kind of, doesn't have to be specific, but an intention, a vision, an intention of where you want to go, then at least you've got some direction you're moving towards.
Oh, that's so good. Hunger, passion, hard work, and back that up with clarity and intention.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your journey. Now, I know that you are big in value selling. You
Mhm.
love talking about value. So, what are some ways, because I also have some sales background, what are some ways that people can shift from price conversation to value conversation?
Yeah, so in the sales world, it's very easy. If you think of the typical salesperson, they are someone who talks a lot and they're selling to you. They're talking, 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 and they're beating you down until you say, "Yeah, I'll buy from you." That's not what I would call classic. That's good transactional selling, but it's not good classic growth. You're not going to grow your business. So the way you move to value selling is ask questions, be curious about the company's business or the individual's personal goals. So questions, curiosity, and uncover what's really important to them for their business or for them as an individual. So it starts with great questions and curiosity.
Yeah, that's good. Now, I have a lot of 9 to 5 folks that listen to this show, and
Mhm.
my goal is to help them to get better. So, what does maybe 1% better every day? What does it look like for a typical 9 to 5 job? How can we be better every day?
Hmm. Well, I guess firstly, you've got to want to be better every day. So you've got to have a mindset that says, I I want to develop in some way every day. And the 1% or the one more thing can be in whatever area that you want to develop. But learning is critical because if you want to progress in any career, there is only growth or there is decline. There is nothing in between. There is no stability because if you're staying where you are, someone else is growing around you. So, and the way, especially in the world we're in today with the technology we've got today, we've got to constantly be learning and developing our skills. That's the most important thing we can do is invest in ourselves. So the 1% is reading something, listening to something, uh, watching something that's going to help them develop in whatever area they want to develop in. If you're a salesperson, develop the sales skills. If you're in finance, develop your finance skills. If you're an executive, develop your leadership skills. So whatever you can do to develop you, be a sponge for learning.
That's so good. So personal accountability and personal development.
Mm.
I'm hearing right there. Now, Neil, I want to hear maybe a success story from the people that you've worked with. Maybe someone that you really found fascinating. And do you mind sharing that success story with us?
No, I'm happy to do that. So there's a number of examples I could talk about, but I think one of them is probably a good story for people to listen to, actually, because this person came to me when they were a deputy CFO of a quite a large listed company in the UK. And I was brought in to help develop them to be CFO. And so as a coach, I was working with them and their boss on the skills they needed to develop to be a CFO. But when I'm coaching, I always take a step back and look at the foundation of the individual. And with this particular individual, classic career person, started early in the morning, worked late at night, when they got home, spent time with the kids, but then was back on the computer in the evening. They had all these great plans for what they wanted to do with the family, the holidays they wanted to go on. And it was when I get to this stage of my career, then we'll go and do this. When I have enough money, when I have enough time, we'll go and do this. So what I focused on with this particular individual was to change that mindset from not when. Let's look at your life goals and what you want to achieve. He had three boys that were getting older, and there were some adventures they wanted to have they were putting off for 10, 15 years. So we talked about, well, why not do them now? While the kids are younger, while they can enjoy it, while you can enjoy them. And the reason I'm sharing this is because by shifting the mindset from work to achieve goals in the future, we shifted the mindset from these are some big goals we want to achieve, and my career will support that. So the mindset shifted from the timeline shifted very much shorter because these were suddenly became important. And I talked about purpose and the external reason why. The external reason why was to have these experiences with the family.
Right.
So to cut a long story short, we worked on those personal goals. And the other thing I always work on is your physical and mental health and making sure that that's a strong foundation. So we set some goals around that as well. By working on those two things, this guy's career went up. So
Wow.
he wasn't working more hours. He was just much more intentional about what he needed to do and where he needed to go. And he left that company and went to another company to be a deputy CFO with the opportunities to step in. And then last year, so this was about 18 months after we started working with me, he got his CFO role in a company that he's now in and growing. So that was a really important journey, but it started with the base of the foundation, your personal goals, your physical and mental health, and then, okay, so how are we going to accelerate your career now?
That's a good, Neil, because you are not only helping with career right there, you coach this fellow to live in the moment,
Yeah.
to balance their physical but mental health, which is good. Now, in coaching, I know you've met several people. Some will be easy to work with. I'll say some, maybe we'll call them underperformers. How do you coach someone, maybe an underperformer, without demoralizing them? How do you help them to bring their best out from within?
So you've got to find a why. You've got to find a why, because without a why, no one's going to change. And this is a challenge for coaches, right? Is where an executive or a boss brings someone in to coach one of their team. I say this person needs a bit of coaching because they're not performing, or I want them to improve in this area. But the individual hasn't asked for a coach. They've just been told, here's your coach to help you improve. That's one of the most challenging things that a lot of coaches have. is that when someone hasn't asked for a coach because they can't see why they need one. So you've got to start with the why. You've got to spend time with them and work out what would this mean if you improved in this area. What would that mean to you? What would it mean to the team, to your business? So I think that's one area that I would say. So when you're given a coachee to work with, that's tough, and you have to focus on the reason why. One of the toughest coaching clients I had was a business owner. So he's a CEO of a really quite a decent sized business, and his ops director said to me, who I knew, he said, Neil, the owner needs some leadership coaching. Can you come and do some leadership coaching with him? So the owner of the company, the CEO, didn't realize he had an issue.
Yeah.
And so that was really, really hard to work with him on helping him realize that there was a different way of leading,
Mhm.
and that if he led that way, it would make his life better. He would be more relaxed, have more time, and not be so stressed. So that was one of the hardest coaching clients I had. And we kind of got there. It wasn't the perfect coaching journey, to be honest. But over a year, he did get to a point where he was leading in a different way.
Thank you for sharing that. So when you look at the 7 P's,
Yeah.
which of those P would you say is the most neglected, maybe especially in corporate career?
Oh, that's a really good question, Bola. I would say corporates are brilliant at building plans and doing preparation. Um, and they're brilliant at perception, dashboards and KPIs and managing stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but they're not great at purpose,
Yeah.
at the reason why. Why are we in this business at all?
Mm.
What's our purpose of being in this business? Simon Sinek talks about start with why.
Yeah.
And we can all do the how and the what, the planning, the preparation, the delivery, the dashboards. But what will get the whole business performing to a higher level is that when people get out of bed in the morning, they're not just coming to work, they're coming with a mission, with a purpose as to why they're doing what they're doing. And that could be individual or at a business level. So I'd say purpose is the one that's not focused on.
And I think I agree with you on that. Absolutely. Most of the time, we just know the what, go do something.
Yeah.
We don't bother to ask the why are we doing it? So thank you for sharing that. Now, Neil, when it comes to setting ambitious goal, which I know is very important, how can we manage these goals without necessarily sacrificing maybe mental or physical health?
Yeah, that's a tough one, actually. It's a great question. And it's not just your mental and physical health, it's also the relationships with your partner, your family, and that kind of thing as well. And I've got to say that I've probably learned how to do that through painfully getting it wrong over the years, right? So because it's about balance and having balance in your life. So the way and we only have 168 hours in the week. That is how much time we have. And so how we allocate that time and how we manage that time is really key. And I do work on this a lot with my clients, is when you want to achieve something significant, if you had the time to do it now, you would already be doing it. So you've got to find that time, and the way you find that time is just getting more efficient with how you spend those 168 hours. Being really disciplined with your time, with your scheduling, with the people you meet with, the time you spend with people, and being very conscious of time you're wasting. So and I also I call Stephen Covey talked about the big rocks, putting the big rocks in your calendar first. So again, is something I do and I get my clients to is put what are the most important things that you need to put in your calendar. So if you're training for a marathon,
Mhm.
then put those in the calendar because that's important. Your physical health is important. If meditating every morning for 20 minutes is important, make sure it's in the diary, it's non-negotiable. It's like a hospital appointment. If you had a hospital appointment, you wouldn't move it out of the diary for an email or a customer meeting. If having dinner with your wife or spending time with the family, put that as a big rock in your calendar, can't move it, and then everything else fits around those big rocks. So that's probably the way I would answer that.
Thank you. So, as we are wrapping it, if there is someone out there now that they feel stuck in their career, what would be the first move that you recommend that they make?
Mm. So, and I know that there are lots of people who feel stuck in their career. And you'd be surprised actually how many senior executives and business owners I work with who feel stuck, even though they're in very senior roles. And the first thing I always say to people is in 5 years' time, not where do you want to be in your career? In 5 years' time or 10 years' time, however far you want to look, how do you want to be living your life? How do you want to be spending your time every day, week, month, year? So design the life you want as a vision and then work back from there and say, okay, so if that's how I want to be living my life, then what needs to happen with my career to get me there? So, because if you haven't got that vision of how you want to be living your life in the future, then how do you make decisions about what you do with your career? Because you haven't got a direction. And that's hard because people will tell me all the things they don't want to do and they don't want it in their life. You know, I don't want to be traveling all over the world. I don't want to be on Zoom calls on a Saturday or a Sunday. They'll tell me all the things they don't want. But when I say, what do you want? It takes them a long time to work that out and think about how they want to be living their life. So that's what I would say is if you're feeling stuck, just get really excited like a kid at Christmas and draw a picture, build a vision board of how you want to be living life in 5 years' time, and then work backwards for what does that mean I've got to do with my career to get me there.
Oh, that was so good. I like that response. So, finally, Neil, maybe there's something that you want to share with our audience here, maybe in terms of big goals, mindset, discipline, or value-driven strategy. Please feel free share any message that you.
Okay. So, look, I'm 60 years old and throughout my life, I have learnt that whoever we are, we can achieve so much more than we believe we can achieve. So much more. So anytime you think in your head, I can't do that, or that's not the type of person I am, that's a lie you're telling yourself, and that's an opportunity to step outside the comfort zone and go and grow. So just believe that you can be more than you think you can be.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that message, Neil. Where can my audience find you so that they can connect with you
Okay.
and continue?
Yeah, no, thanks, Bola. So look, my surname is quite unusual. So if you Google Neil Thubron, you'll find me and you'll find lots about me. And neilthubron.com is my website. And my book, You Can, is on Amazon if you wanted to get that as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Neil, for coming on the show. I enjoyed this, and I'm sure listeners they'll find it beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Bola.